And hello fellow tankers, Space Bandit here with another episode of World of Tanks, and today I bring you not so great news. As you guys are aware, E50 has been nerfed in the last update, and unfortunately I'm one of the guys that does not condone those changes. Well, maybe not all of the changes, but specifically with respect to some tanks, I think they've made a really big mistake by nerfing them, and it seems like a common voice in the community anyway. Now, I'm aware of the fact that every time you actually go in and do some sort of a nerf and you dumb down some of the tanks that people are playing and they're used to them and they like the way they play, there's going to be backlash. And in this situation, there's obviously backlash. And if you go through the forums, you guys will understand what's going on there. But I think it's a little bit more than that in this case, because with some of the changes that were made, I think it basically undermines the purpose of playing this game, and I'll explain to you guys why I think that way. Now, I've watched Clone Guy's video with respect to the update and what his opinion was, and I do understand his points, which are very well taken, but I'll give you my perspective on the situation and you guys tell me what you think about it, whether it makes sense or it doesn't make sense. So for instance, the tanks that were dumbed down, and I'm not gonna cover everything because it doesn't make sense. I'm not gonna go over all the stats. I'm going to specifically focus on E50 here. I will touch on some other tanks like STB1 because these were the tanks that were hit the hardest by this update. So my opinion on this is as such. Basically, for me, I was drawn to certain tanks or certain line of tanks because of stats and what these tanks can do on regular basis in a game. And there was always something about those tanks that made them different, that made them special, that made you want to play in order to get them. For me, they were considered crown jewels or hidden gems within those tank lines. So in this case, for me, if we refer to, let's say, Japanese and the German medium tank lines, would be E50 in the German tank line and STB1 in the Japanese tank line. And the reason why is because you want to be excited about grinding to get to these tanks. You want to be excited even if you're going through the crappy tanks in order to get there. But you know that at the end of the day you're going to get rewarded with a tank that can perform at the level that you want it to perform, that you know it will perform excellent and potentially might become one of the go-to tanks that you want to play. So now let's put that back into context. Now, if I've spent days or weeks or even months grinding to get to the tanks that I like, and I've put time and effort in order to get there because I wanted to be rewarded, that's the reason I played the game. Now, all of a sudden, if my reward is gone, what is my feeling about that? Am I supposed to be happy, put a party hat on, go jumping around, enjoy? Or am I going to create a backlash and be really pissed off about the situation? I bet you it's not going to be the first one. Now, off to the next point. I would say that the only reason I play this game is for the fact that I do have my set of tanks that I really enjoy, and I do go in and come back every once in a while to the game, and I play the tanks that I like. And believe it or not, both E50 and STB1 were those tanks. Now, I don't play as much at tier 10 because I think it requires a lot of focus, a lot of concentration, and honestly, if you ask any player, I don't think they want to be spending most of the time every day playing at tier 10. So you always find those crown jewels at lower tiers, and tier 9 is one of my favorite tiers, believe it or not. Tier 8 used to be my favorite tier, now it's basically tier 9. Sometimes I go down to tier 7, sometimes even go down to tier 6. But basically, by creating this so-called balance, what Wargaming has done is taken away that special incentive. The fact that you'll be able to get to certain tank because you know you want to get there, you know it's a good tank, but you're willing to grind through all lower tiers at tier 6, tier 7, tier 8 in order to get there. Now that incentive is gone. So if that incentive is gone, what's the point of grinding through the line? And specifically with Wargaming introducing, these overpowered premium tanks, like a Defender, like a Patriot, they're basically giving you opportunity to purchase the tanks, OP tanks, for your money from their store, yet they're dumbing down the tanks that are good within certain tank trees. So this doesn't make sense for me, guys. Absolutely does not, and I don't understand it. If such is the case and they want to create balance, and they want to create balance within every tank line, then what should they also be paying attention to is the premium tanks they introduce into the game. It absolutely makes no sense to me. Now, I want to bring in yet another point. So Clone Guy in his video mentioned that those OP tanks, certain OP tanks and their tank trees are used by Unicom players to pad their stats. And I completely understand that, and that may be the case, but I can only think from my perspective and what I can see. Now, I'm not a Unicom player, and I work hard to be a Unicom player, and I do reach Unicom status in certain tanks, and E50 was one of them. So for me, after a tough run, let's say in a T10 or some other Russian tank with crappy gun, if I get into my E50 and I have a string of good games, I really feel like I enjoy the game. I feel like I can get in, and after a bad run, I can actually have a good game, because I know when I get into this tank, I will have a good game. So for majority of good players, not great players, but good players, this is also a hit, a huge hit, because now you take away the ability of actually hopping into the tank that you enjoy and knowing that you'll do well in it. So now that you guys have heard my kind of view on the whole situation, let's skip to the games. And what I've done for you today is I've provided you 2 games, maybe not exceptional game, guys, but it will give you comparison of the tank before it was nerfed and after it was nerfed. So the first game that you have seen on Sand River was before the update, and the game you're seeing now on Ghost Town is after the update. So the main differences, and I'm going to focus only on E50 right now, the main differences before and after the nerf are as such that your reload time has significantly been nerfed from, and my reload is currently 9.22 seconds, as it was with the same setup before at 8.1 seconds. So the reload itself is slower by about a second. The aim time has also been nerfed. Before the nerf, the aim time was 2.1 seconds. Now it's at about 3 seconds, which makes the gameplay a lot more difficult than it used to be. For a few reasons. First of all, before I used to use optics all the time on my E50 because the gun performance was really good, so you really didn't need extra perks for gun performance. So I was just running the rammer, gun laying drive, and the optics. But now, because the aim time is 3 seconds, I strongly recommend running a vertical stabilizer on this tank, and that's what I've been doing in the latest replays. I've been using vert stabs. So what this is gonna do is significantly gonna impact your view range, simply because of that fact. Now, if you're using those 3 pieces of equipment and you still have cruise skills such as snapshot and smooth ride, your gun performance will be still fairly good, although you will see the difference at long distances, that you will less likely be hitting the targets that you were hitting before. And in the close quarter fighting, you're probably not going to notice much of a difference. So from that perspective, I think the tank can still perform pretty good, but because of this, obviously your view range is nerfed now, and your reload time is nerfed pretty bad, so you're going to have to get used to not getting the damage that you used to in this tank. So the point of my video too is to show you the differences between what was before and what it is now. So for instance, in the past, over 4k damage games were quite common in this tank for me. During each run I would have, 4 or 5 games like that. But nowadays, in my last run, which I played sometime this week, and I played maybe about 20-30 games in this tank, I couldn't even get to 4k damage. So what I'm showing you today in this game, that was probably the best, the highest damage game that I got in my run. Although it was really difficult, the matchmaking was kind of crazy over the last little while, so it was really difficult for me to get a good game for you guys. But I had maybe, I would say, about 60% of my games was about 3k damage, but I couldn't exceed the 4k damage threshold, which is alarming. And now you guys gonna have to get used to that. So basically, what you were able to achieve before in this tank, there's no way you're gonna be able to do that now. So a lot of players are gonna turn away from this tank, and actually over my run I've rarely seen any E50s on the field. I was probably one of the only E50s on the field, and that's because I have sentiment to this tank. I still like playing it. I don't think I will sell it. I think I still will keep it. It's still workable. I think you can still do good things with it. Just you won't be able to have those crazy good games as you used to in the past, and that's something to keep in mind. Another thing I noticed in this tank, for whatever reason, I haven't seen this in the past, is its tracks come off really easy. So I don't know if this is something new or something different, or maybe I haven't observed it as much in the past, but you know, I used to ram a lot in this tank in the past and never had issues with my, or not that often anyway, with my tracks coming off. In this case, nowadays, with this nerfed version of E50, it seems like every time I ram someone, I lose a track. And I rub against someone, I lose a track. So that's really, really surprising. I'm not sure. And you guys can comment in the comment section below whether you found it common or not. I don't know. It seems to me odd. So in this game, despite my best efforts, we weren't able to pull off the win. And E50, I guess, would still be a nice carry machine because it still has the armor, the mobility, and all the things that have made it great tank in the past. So from that perspective, it's still a really good machine, although in this game it was really puzzling for me how T30 actually could have penetrated me from that angle. So at the end of the game, I'm actually gonna have a clip showing the angle that I was at and T30 where he was positioned and how he was actually able to penetrate me. So I really have no idea if that's normal or not. I mean, it seemed to me that in the past I was able to angle the way I did here and the opposition team was not able to penetrate me, but in this case he was able to. So regardless, let's take a look at the end plates now. So we got 3.6k damage, we finished on top of the team. Pretty decent game in E50, and like I said, the tank still has it in certain situations. But in order to get ace tanker in it right now, I don't know guys, good luck with that. I think it will be really difficult to do that. But regardless, so here you can see I'm actually using a slow-mo to try to understand what T30 did to me. And even when I reviewed this, I was 100% sure that I angled pretty good. Like in a game, I was kind of upset. I didn't know where he shot me, so I thought maybe the turret. But it looks like he actually overmatched my side, which is really, really strange. And I don't know, maybe with this caliber gun that he had, he was able to do that, but he basically did all the damage to me in this game, just that tank. And in both cases, I thought I had pretty good position on him, yet he managed to penetrate me. So I don't know, maybe you guys that have played E50 for a long time and you guys know this tank, maybe you can comment on this and you can tell me whether this is something that's common. I know he did kind of shoot me in between the tracks and my hull, so maybe there is a potential to penetrate in this area. I don't know. I was 100% sure he wasn't going to be able to pen me, and if he didn't, if I actually managed to take him out, we could have potentially still carried this game. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed my ramble. It has been a long one, and I hope you got the view of the old E50 versus new E50 and whether you like the changes or you dislike the changes. Let me know what you think in the comment section. It was just my personal opinion on how I feel about the game, how I feel about changes in the game. And like I said, some other people might have different opinions, but just this is my personal feeling. But again, like Clone Guy said, this game is being built towards new players entering the game. But even if so, I still don't understand some of the things that are happening in the game. Anyway guys, enough of my ramble. I hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, happy tanking, Space Bandit, checking out. So for those of you that decided to stick around, I have one more game, and again, this is a game after the update in my E50. Nothing spectacular, but this will show you kind of common games that I had in my E50. I was averaging about 3k damage in my run. Again, nothing spectacular from damage perspective, but very, very steady. Like I said, the tank is still quite workable. You can make it work. It is still fun. But if you're counting on it to get huge numbers, you won't be able to anymore. Anyway, the reason why I wanted to show you this game right at the end is because it is a fun game. It's a game on Panama, which is kind of a reskinned version of Westfield, and I've noticed this map basically takes away the advantage of G6 that used to exist on Westfield. So on Westfield you were able to go into position F7, then potentially move on to position G6 and spot the opposition at K-line. But nowadays, with the revised version on this map, it is extremely difficult to work from this location, and it seems like there is no place to escape anymore, as there used to be a way to kind of drop down the hill and under the bridge. On this map it's a lot more difficult, so I find myself more often going onto the C3 area or B3 area where there is a lot of brawling and fighting. And in this game in particular, something strange really happened, because the opposition team didn't even make it up to C2, which is usually the case. So majority of our team rolled onto B3 C2 area, yet the opposing team was defending from kind of F line. And when that happened, it is really hard, especially for tanks with not a very good gun depression, to poke over those hills at C3 to get shots onto these guys. And actually being on F line is a really nice defensive position for the opposing team. So you could see me kind of scrambling around the C3, C4 area a little bit there, trying to understand what is the best approach, where I can get some shots across. But as was the matchmaking in this case and matchmaking during my whole run, it seemed like half of the team fell apart in the first 5 minutes, and we were basically left to scramble at the end, trying to win this game, being down on numbers. So you will see the opposition team pushing really hard, using 9-line onto our base, and our tank destroyers were defending, yet most of our team basically got killed trying to push the G line or push the F line. And the reason why, there was a tank destroyer T95 sitting at the K line, providing firepower for the opposing team across from the other side of the field. So I was aware of that, and basically I decided not to push this side and decided to turn around and come back and help defend the base with our tank destroyers. And after that there will be some nice closing to the game. I wouldn't call it clutch, but basically it shows some nice teamwork between myself and the Chinese tank destroyer. That said, at the end I was playing really cautious to make sure we get a win out of this game, and my friendly tank destroyer had a fantastic game. He ended up with huge damage, so I decided just to show it to you guys at the end of the video here, because I thought the game was kind of exciting. Again, nothing spectacular on my side, very average game, and average games that I've been getting in this tank ever since the update. But again, I thought the game was kind of nice, so I just decided to throw it at the end of the video. Anyway guys, I'm not going to comment for the remainder of the game. I hope you guys enjoy it. Happy tanking. Until next time, Space Bandit out.